Bow, bow,
Bam,
ba-da-da,
bam,
bow, bow.
Andy.
Oh, you
Another
couldn't do it,
playoff.
Jeff. You were there. You were there.
Someday,
You
We
someday.
felt it. We felt it, Jeff. We were in sync, and you just weren't ready. But you know what?
Just-
We're
He'll
gonna
do
have
it for
plenty
the
more
World
opportunities.
Series. He'll
Yeah,
do it for the
Give me
World
6 more
Series.
wins, 6 more wins, and I promise I'll come back on and do it.
That's what I like to hear. I was gonna say we're gonna have another opportunity. The way these Dodgers have been playing, Butane absolutely comes out and shoves. The bats go bonkers. Let's get straight into it. There's a lot to talk about, but of course, before we do, reminder that here at the Blue Review, we're presented by LAX, and our friends at LAX are transforming the travel experience. So for more info, check it out at flylax.com/transforminglAX. And as Greg mentioned, we're joined by our friend Jeff Spiegel every Thursday. Jeff, how are we feeling just after that shutout victory, fourth in I think the last 5 games? Come on,
Yeah,
man.
four shutouts in 5 games. Look, 2-1. I almost hesitate to say it out loud, but 6 wins, Greg. 6 wins away from a World Series.
That's right.
From
We
the
can still
Yankees
count down the
Dodgers World
wins.
Series.
Yeah, we can still count down the wins, but we're not getting ahead of ourselves.
No,
That's the
we're
most
not.
important thing.
True.
Correct.
True.
Go ahead,
Correct.
Parker.
But
Tell us about LAX.
let's just get straight into this, guys. You know, our friends at LAX, of course, like I said, transforming the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving guest time. So transforminglax.com/transforminglax. You can find out all the information. But let's talk baseball. We don't have a lot of time to do so, and I want to get into everything. Just Buehler's performance, Jeff. Let's start there. Of course, maybe could have even gone a little more, but that pitch count was high, and you got to save him.
Yeah.
But he was looking great. What are your thoughts?
I am very happy for Walker Buehler because I felt like a week ago he got absolutely screwed by his inability to strike guys out, which is on him, and some unbelievable batted ball luck. When you give up 5 ground balls in a row and all 5 of those guys reach base as a pitcher, that's not on you. Now, I'll be honest. I think the luck kind of went all the way the other way in his favor. I didn't think he was perfect last night. Only 51 strikes on 90 pitches, but the key to me, Greg, was the ability to strike people out. I was optimistic because the Mets are average when it comes to strikeouts. The Padres were the best team in baseball. Against the Padres, this was my favorite stat. He had 10 batters that he got to 2 strikes. He struck none of them out. He got 2 guys to 2 strikes in the first inning, struck both of them out. That's when I knew that we were in for at least a better Walker Buehler performance, but 4 shutout innings from the guy that you trust in that moment. And that strikeout to Lindor with the bases loaded is exactly why you trust Walker Buehler in that spot.
That's exactly what it is. You're right, because he showed in that outing versus the Padres that he can get guys out. He may not have had the strikeout stuff, but he showed that he besides that second inning, I think he might have been close to perfect throughout for the rest of the innings. I mean, he maybe gave up a hit here or there, but for the most part, he was facing the minimum for a long time besides that second inning. So I felt good about him coming in, and even on Mesa and Ireland. My final score prediction for last night was 7-1. It was 8-0, so I was wrong. But I really felt that Walker was going to come out and he was going to shove, like Parker said, because this is a different team. The Mets are not the same as the Padres. They do swing and miss a lot. They are a team that you can strike out. But what was really exciting for me is that when he got into trouble, because he got into trouble a few times, he was able to get out of it with strikeouts. Striking out Alvarez, striking out Lindor on back-to-back, striking out guys when he had 2 guys on. Those were moments that I thought, this is the closest we may ever get back to the old Walker Buehler.
Well, and here's the thing, and the only thing I would sort of almost push back a little on is the old Walker Buehler, because I think you could write 5,000 words on the pitch that he threw to Francisco Lindor, and somebody will. Somebody's going to have the whole biography of Walker Buehler, piece up on The Athletic, and it is going to be rooted in that one pitch, because old Walker Buehler, in a full count with the bases loaded, throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball at the top of the zone and says, "I dare you to try and hit this." New Walker Buehler drops an unbelievable off-speed pitch, curveball, right in the middle of the zone and gets the swing and miss. And to me, that was the moment where it was like, he has accepted who he is,
right,
and he is learning in real time how to be the best version of himself. I don't think the command was perfect, but the stuff was fantastic. And so I was asking Daniel last night, like, the only question for me is if we see him again, which would either be in Game 7 of the NLCS, if it gets there, or the World Series, if the Dodgers get there. Is there a night coming when he's going to put it all together? When we're going to see the stuff we saw last night and the command to be able to throw every single pitch competitively, be more in the zone, and so there's less walks involved? Because if we get that, I think it's new Walker Buehler, but I do think there's a night coming, Greg, where we're going to see old Walker Buehler type box score. It's going to be new Walker Buehler from the eye test, but it's going to be old Walker Buehler when you read the box score.
Well, yeah, because you're going to look at it and you're going to say, this is a guy, the opposing team, whether it's the Mets or somebody in the World Series, it's going to be, they're like, okay, he's not throwing heat at us anymore. He's not throwing the four-seam fastball anymore. He's only throwing that cutter for out pitches. He's only throwing the knuckle curve. He's only throwing the off-speed pitches to get guys out. And they're going to think that's what's coming, and he's just going to blow going to get the velocity up a little bit, and he's going to blow right past them. Now, I do want to say, and I see it in the chat, and I've admitted to it very, very many times. So, and I'm not afraid to even admit it. Early for a while, exactly that Berg wanted to DFA Walker. It was more of a not the DFA, but also maybe put him on the 60-day IL because he was not pitching well, and he was bad, and it was super tight in the division race. We were down to like 3 games at the time, and there was still plenty of baseball left, and he was not giving competitive performances on the mound. It just wasn't right. So. Whether or not, so yes, I did say that. It was absolutely wrong. He's been fantastic. I will happily admit that I was wrong about that. As I will, if I say something that I feel is wrong, I will admit to it. I'm not going to be somebody that's just there. No. It was wrong. He has been fantastic, and he deserves to be here. And he is really, weirdly enough, kind of the backbone of the rotation.
Well, and I'll say this for myself as well. We had somebody on our show who from the get-go in spring training said Walker Buehler was cooked. And there were a few of us that pushed back against that and said, hey, let's not bury this guy yet. It's only February. It's only March. But to believe that he was going to be back to this level this season, I don't think even the most optimistic fans, and I'm putting myself in that category, would have ever been able to say. When he had that start and he had to face the media and then he disappeared for a month and they're like, yeah, he's in Florida, we think. It wasn't that I was career over.
Maybe.
Right. And it wasn't that the career was over, but if you would have asked me and said hey, how optimistic are you that Walker Buehler by the end of this season is not only going to be back, but he's going to be pitching well in the postseason? I don't know if anybody really had that left, even if they believe maybe next year would have been the year that he came back. And so kudos to Walker Buehler because he's had to reinvent himself. He's had to grind. He's had to eat some humble pie. He's done all of that. And he's still the guy that in a big game, when he struck out Lindor, I joked. I loved it because he was like, I'll give an MF to whoever wants it. Lindor, you want some of this? JD Martinez, swing the bat. It was just
that was great.
Walker Buehler. And I'm like, that's the guy I want. That's the guy I want.
He's got all that fire back, and it's really, really great to see. Well, we got to talk a little bit more about the bullpen usage as well, and how this bullpen has been going. They also have, so if you look at this pitching staff and what the Mets have done, they've put up a total of 7 runs in the 3 games. It all came in game 2. Yeah. But those runs have come against Landon Knack, Edgardo Henriquez, and 1 against Ryan Brazier because Ryan Brazier started off and he gave up a home run to end the scoreless inning streak against Francisco Lindor. They have 1 run against the pitchers that, for the lack of a better term, matter. They're not the high leverage relievers. They have 1 run. That to me is a little bit crazy and just goes to show you that they are firing on all cylinders right now, and that Dave Roberts especially is pulling all the right strings on when to go to what guy at what time. Now, I don't know if that's coming up from Andrew Friedman to saying, hey, this is kind of the game plan at the time, but in-game decisions, I give fully to Dave Roberts at this point.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that and talk bullpen real quick. But first, Dave Roberts deserves all sorts of credit. And yes. I was kind of going through this on social media last night. There were a bunch of decisions Dave Roberts had to make. He had to make the decision of whether or not to send Walker Buehler back out there for the 5th inning. I thought it was an easy decision. The Mets did the exact opposite the very next inning. So it clearly wasn't entirely obvious because Severino went back out to face the top of the order in the 5th inning. And that's, I would argue, when the game was lost, or excuse me, put away because of a series of decisions we can get into. But I think Dave Roberts was great. He brings Kopech in. I was like, dang, Kopech looks so good. Do you just leave him in there for a 2nd inning? He decides not to. Brazier, I think we got lucky. He just sort of worked himself out of a jam. But then he goes to Trinan for the 8-9-1 because Lindor is the guy he wants to face there. And then I love that he went to Kasparias. Kasparias looked great, but I just love that Dave was willing to say, hey, it's 8-0, 7-0 at that point. We don't need to burn Daniel Hudson in this spot.
Evan
as far
Phillips.
as the bullpen goes, I want to say one thing. what I love about this team is starting pitching absolutely let them down in the NLDS, and the bullpen picked them up. And now we are seeing, to some degree, the exact opposite.
Yep.
Starting pitching, because Vesia is gone. Brazier hasn't looked like quite himself. Daniel Hudson wasn't available in game 2. And so this impenetrable bullpen that we had in the NLDS, I'm not sure it's exactly there. There might be 5 guys you trust instead of 7 or 8 guys that you trust. And yet, if Walker Buehler's giving you 4 shutout and Jack Flaherty's giving you 7 innings and Yamamoto's on the mound tonight, like the starting pitching is making up for the loss of guys like Alex Vesia, Ryan Brazier's struggles, etc. So I just think it's a team effort, and that's the type of thing that you want to be able to see and say at this point in the season.
Yeah, no, you're right. And to go back to the bullpen part of all this, I said on social media, like I can't actually make decisions anymore. I can't make predictions on what's going to come out, who's going to come out at what point. When you go to Kopech at in the fifth inning, and then you go to Trinan in the 7th inning, that was shocking to me.
Yeah,
I thought they were like, okay, well, if you go to Trinan in the 7th, you have Bonda and you have Phillips and you have Hudson. Are you going to go Phillips to Hudson? And I thought, because that made sense, because then you have 2, 3, 4 with Phillips, and they had Hudson warming up. So I just don't know what they're actually going to do at any point. And I think that's a good thing for somebody like a fan to not know exactly what they're going to do. It means also that the Mets probably don't have as good of a clue. Also, they have better, obviously, understanding of how these things work, but still, they're not doing what you would expect. Nobody expected 8-9-1 for Blake Trinan at all.
Here's the difference, and I'll ask it to you this way: who in the Mets lineup scares you?
So Lindor, Vientos, and maybe Alonso, but he's not swinging.
So Lindor's 1 for 11. Yeah, Lindor's 1 for 11 in this series. Vientos has been good, but the reason that I think we're seeing what you're describing is because when you played the Padres, you could kind of get down to at least the 5th guy in their lineup, Jackson Merrill, and say 1 through 5, maybe not 1. Arise didn't scare me, but 2 through 5 scared me. So there was a bigger gap of guys that you had to worry about. With the Mets, when they brought Trinan in to face 8, 9, and 1, first of all, I think John Smoltz, who I've made a lot of fun of, made a great point in saying that the 8 and 9 guys have never seen Blake Trinan. They're never going to see him again. And so for Trinan to be able to go in there and not give somebody a look that they're going to need Trinan to get out later in the series, I think was key. But secondly, I just read it as, oh man, I don't think they're scared of anybody except for Lindor and Vientos. Because I think they said the only way Trinan gets to pitch to Lindor is he has to come in at the beginning of the inning, because Lindor's up 3rd and the guys have to face 3 batters. So I was like, I just think that the Dodgers don't care if Trinan faces 8 and 9, because I wonder if the Dodgers think there's that big of a gap between 3 and 4 and 8 and 9 in the Mets lineup. I just think that they said, we want Trinan for Lindor, maybe Vientos if somebody gets on, and that's kind of all we care about. And I think that's the difference. They only have to manage to, when is Lindor coming up and when is Vientos coming up, and everybody else, like whatever, Hudson, Phillips, Bonda, doesn't matter.
Yeah, they can go to any of them, and that it's because this bullpen has been so good, they have that ability to do that. Yeah. I mean, who knows? At some point, Pete Alonso had a ball that I thought was out of the park, and it eventually did not get there. So I also want to talk. There's a big part of this that's making it so that there's a lot of zeros on this board. Like you said, there was 4 out of the last 5 games have been shutouts for the Dodgers. We have to give a ton, and I heard all the players do it last night. You have to give a ton of credit to Will Smith. As much as he has not been hitting it, well, he did have, I think, 2 hits last night. As much as he's not been hitting, he has hit the ball hard a few times that just got caught. But the fact of the matter is, the game that he is calling behind the plate is one of the big reasons why they have zeros on those boards over and over again. So no matter what he's doing, no matter how he's hitting in the lineup, he is calling a hell of a game for every single one of these pitchers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, look, everybody that knows me or watches my show knows that Will Smith is my guy, that I defend him to the death. I know he's been terrible. I know he's been terrible. Did go 2 for 4 with a walk last night, reached base 3 times. No big deal, Will Smith. Yeah, we're going to count the RBI single that was a comebacker off of Severino's glove, okay? It's in the box score. It says RBI single. We're going to count it. But look, for how many years have we gotten to the playoffs and Will Smith gets taken out of the lineup, Austin Barnes gets put in the lineup, and the explanation is, his pitch calling. nobody, like, there's no chance there's many guys that have 4 shutouts in 5 games on their resume anyways. And
Right.
I can't remember if it was Walker Buehler or Dave Roberts, but one of them made the point last night that you're making. Not only is it like the starters, Walker Buehler only threw 4 innings last night. So Will Smith is doing this with like 12 different pitchers that are rotating in and out and matchups and all of it. And yet it's been really, really good. I mentioned the curveball that Walker Buehler throws to Lindor. Who called for the curveball? Like,
Yeah.
who had the trust of Walker Buehler to say, hey, we're not going 95 at the top of the zone. I want you to throw a breaking ball. And he executes. And it was the same with Yamamoto when he threw the breaking ball that was perfect to Tatis to ground into a double play. Smith calls it, the pitcher executed. It's both and. And I would even say you could give 2/3 of the credit to the pitcher. But for a guy who has gotten crushed, who's now a Gold Glove finalist, by the way, when people said he wasn't any good defensively and that he couldn't pitch call anything, now 4 shutouts in 5 games. I'm just happy for my guy that even if the offense is as bad, and it has been that bad, I'm not defending it. It has been that bad. But for him to be contributing in other ways, much like Freddie Freeman, like it's not the bat, but it's everything else that Will Smith, Freddie Freeman are doing. Kudos to him. I'm glad he's getting his flowers.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves it because he's doing to get the Gold Glove. You have to do a lot of different things. First of all, he's a type of pitch. He's an old school catcher in some sorts because you know how these catchers like Alvarez, they put their knee down, which causes a lot of pass balls, a lot of wild pitches because they just can't get behind balls that hit the dirt. He doesn't do that. He goes into old school crouch, and because of it, he's throwing out a ton of guys at second. So you're not seeing guys run on Will Smith very often anymore.
Yeah.
And when they do, they're kind of getting thrown out a decent amount. So they're kind of afraid to even run on him because he's been so good at this year. He gets a Gold Glove for those types of things, those reasons. So, and to be somebody that's behind the plate, that's trusted by every single pitcher on the staff. It's like you said, he's been doing it with 12 different guys to the point of also, there was a stat that I saw that Lindor and Vientos have seen 10 different pitchers in 3 games. That's kind of crazy to think you're completely held off balance over and over and over again. So no matter what, I give a ton of credit to Will Smith. I heard the players give a ton of credit to Will Smith, and I saw that you did too. Yeah. Now we can't go too far without actually talking about Shohei Ohtani, right?
Yeah.
Like, how weird is it that he is 0 for 22 with nobody on base, but he's 7 of 9 with runners in scoring position, and that was one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen. It was like 3 rows from being out of Citi Field.
Did you think it was fair?
Yes. Did you not?
I didn't. I just didn't know. I was like watching it. I mean, we have no good angle, and everybody on the field seemed utterly convinced that it was fair. And there was a quick review and all that, but I was slightly terrified. I think the wound in me said, "Oh, they're definitely calling this foul, aren't they?" And then it's going to be too high, and they're not going to be able to review it.
Too high. What do you mean too high? You know, Major League. That's a Major League reference, just in case you don't know references.
Yeah, I missed it last time. So, I mean, look, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense that he's good with guys on and bad with guys off. But I guess we'd prefer it this way, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't matter. So this is a whole thing for me. So I know people have been talking about move Ohtani down in the lineup. He needs guys on base, blah, blah, blah. He's going to come up either today or tomorrow. He's going to get a hit with somebody with nobody on base. It's going to happen because he's the MVP. He's one of the best players we've ever seen. He's going to get hits. If he comes up in the first inning today and hits a home run, are you going to be surprised? No, probably not. I like him at the top of the lineup. I like him because leave everything as it is in my mind. And the other part of it is when you get to the bottom of the lineup, you have guys that actually can get on base now. Kike, Tommy Edman, Gavin Lux. These guys are getting on base. And then also, so when starting pitchers or just any pitcher is getting to the bottom of the lineup and they think, shoot, we got Shohei coming up in 2 batters. I got to get these guys out so I don't see him with guys on base because he's going to get me. So that you get that little bit of that extra pucker, you know, when you have that, like you have to be perfect to get those guys at the bottom of the lineup. And it's kind of working because guys are coming up. Shohei's coming up with guys on base. It's just happening. So I like it where it is. I want them there at the top of the lineup. Where are you on that?
Well, first of all, Parker, I think you do the pull quotes and throw those on social media. Can we just get a little bit of extra Parker dash?
I tweeted it last night.
Social media. Can we get that? I'll retweet it if we throw that out there. Yeah, good. You're on it. Perfect.
I tweeted it last night. If you want to do it, you can just go to my page. I did it.
There you go. Yeah, we got a ton of questions on our post game show last night about the lineup, and I'm like, look, folks, I'm going to be honest. You score 8 runs and win 8-0. I mean, there's a lefty on the mound, so there's going to be some tweaking, but yeah, I'm not really messing with something. Let me ask you this: so Muncy batted 4th last night, lefty on the mound in Quintana today. Probably, I'm assuming Muncy gets moved down in the lineup a little bit. If the Dodgers lineup comes out today and Kike Hernandez is hitting cleanup against a lefty, what would your thoughts be?
I would not be so opposed to it. Honestly, I don't. Right? There's certain guys that when
because Teoscar's a mess. He would be the guy that would be the obvious choice, but Teoscar was him and who was it? Him and Lux. Him and Lux were a mess last night. Like uncompetitive at bats, like ground balls and swings and misses by a mile. But I'm just curious if Kike is batting cleanup, I think people will be pumped.
Yeah, this, by the way, Bubba Holmberg put up the quote for you for Major League. That was exactly what it was. They were in the outfield and saying like, too high. What do you mean too high? Too hard. Who gives a shoot? It's gone. Like it was just a great line. But no, I would not be surprised at all. And certain guys just show up in the postseason, and I don't know what it is with Kike, but he's been doing it for 10 years. This isn't like a one-time thing for Kike. He's been doing this over and over and over again, getting big home runs. And it's not just with the Dodgers. I think 11 of his 15 are with the Dodgers. The other 4 are with the Red Sox and in big moments. So the guy just shows up in those moments. So I would not be surprised in the slightest. I still think I'm still very high on Teoscar Hernandez. He was batting over 300 against the Padres. I think he's going to go back to that at some point. He's just expanding the zone a little bit, but I honestly think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kike in game 2 was a mess. He came up in 2 big spots and was 0 for 2. So, we have to remember that all we're seeing is the one at bat in front of us. But give Teoscar 5 or 6 of those opportunities. He might go 0 for his first 3, but if he gets 1 or 2 hits in the back half, then all is forgiven. So I think that's probably the more likely is Teoscar hits 4th, and then maybe Muncy, and then Kike, and then Will Smith, and then Andy Page's probably in for Gavin Lux would be my guess against the lefty. But when it comes to Ohtani and Betts and Freeman at the top, don't mess with it. We're good.
I also want Edman in the 9 spot always. I know he was in the 8 spot, but I would just prefer him in the 9 spot because he's going to do the right thing at the bottom of the lineup. He's going to bunt guys over. He's going to, if he needs to get a hit, he can get the ball to the outfield. He doesn't seem like a guy. I'm sure he does it, and he does it to a good extent, but I don't see him grounding into double plays very often. I feel like he's a guy that knows how to keep himself out of that. And I'd like that in the 9 spot.
I agree. Can I throw a scenario at you from last night? And I posted this on my Twitter account, but I feel like it's not something that has been mentioned, but I think it was actually the key to the game. So I mentioned this 5th inning, they throw Severino back out. There's 2 outs. He goes through Ohtani. He goes through Brett's. Freddie Freeman comes up. 2 outs. Nobody on. Who cares? Freddie Freeman singles. Max Muncy walks. Nobody's paying super close attention to this, but the single from Freddie extends the inning. Muncy walks. Then all of a sudden they have to pull Severino. So they bring in Reed Garrett, who's been fantastic for them. Reed Garrett strikes out Teoscar, no big deal, right? Well, Garrett comes back out in the 6th, strikeout or whatever, gets 2 quick outs, and you're thinking no big deal. Well, then I believe it was Edman walks or singles.
Singles, I think.
And then Kike hits a 2-run home run. And I would argue that Reed Garrett, because he had to come in the 5th, because Freddie singles, and because Muncy walks, and it forces them to go to their bullpen 1 out before they wanted to, which means then Garrett has to pitch and sit and then come back. And then he gets his required 3 outs, right? He gets the first 2 outs of the next inning. And then the wheels come off and he gives up the home run to Kike Hernandez. I think it's the little things like Freddie Freeman, his only hit of the night, but getting a hit in that spot brings Garrett in earlier. Garrett falls apart a little bit earlier. And on the 17th pitch that he throws, Kike sends it into the seat. So I think those are the little moments that define these postseasons. And Freddie, I know he's 1 for 5, but those are the moments why I just love the guy. And I love that he's in there, and it's why this team has been so good.
No, totally agree with you. It's a really good point, and you're 100% correct. We don't have any more time, though. So, Parker, if you want to take it away, we got to get to Travis and DeMarco. Jeff, thank you so much. I thought this was a great episode, and we'll see you again, hopefully, next Thursday.
Sounds good.
That's right. And, before we get to Travis and DeMarco, Jeff, go ahead. Let us know where we can find you if we're going to see anything today, some more reactions from Dodger Blue.
Dodger Blue 1958 on the YouTube page. Go find that. We got post-game shows all throughout the week. So we've got a live show. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on it tonight, but I will be on tomorrow night for sure, Saturday. So Join us over on Dodger Blue 1958.
Perfect. Go Blue. Keep thinking blue. Travis and DeMarco are up next. And how about Muncy, by the way? I mean, all those at-bats, I think if you look back,
last 8 at-bats
walk.
was bookended by home runs with, I think, 6 walks and a single.
It's ridiculous. So
he's
shout
back
out
to
Funky Muncy.
By the way, your guys on your Dodger Blue channel when I was on the postgame show giving me hell because I thought that Max Muncy was going to have a big series. Well, look at it now. Just saying.
This is a big
series. Anytime you want to come back and defend yourself, Greg, you're invited.
I will join when I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you to LAX. Thank you to everyone in the chat. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow reacting, of course, to Game 4. Let's go ahead and get another W. Go Blue. We'll catch you next time, and let's cue that music. Bum, bum.
Bum, 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 bum.